Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to another half-hour segment of Vaughan and Vivo, your English class in your living room or in your bedroom, or maybe you're in the kitchen preparing something and you have a little TV in your kitchen and you're watching English. You're taking an English class in your kitchen. It's not often that somebody receives English lessons in their kitchen, but I imagine that probably one of you, at least one of all the hundreds and thousands of people watching this program, perhaps somebody's in the kitchen. But in any case, sit down, pay attention, be still, estaros quietos, and pagad atención. Porque en inglés la atención se paga, no se presta. Okay? Prestad atención is pay attention. Prestadme atención. Atención en inglés, pay attention to me. No se dice en inglés, pay me attention. Siempre to me, or to him, or to them, después de la palabra attention. So pay attention to me and to my friend, Ruben, my student today, for this segment of Vaughan and Vivo, and we will continue working on the fine points and the basic points and the fundamentals of the English language. Okay? Ahora, las vísceras del inglés, lo que es los cimientos. Y os voy a dar inyecciones de médula ósea en vuestro inglés, día tras día, hasta tenerlo consolidado. Y luego ponemos músculo y agilidad y tendones y todo lo demás. Pero primero, un buen esqueleto. Okay? That's very important, because you can have the best muscles and tendons in the world and the most beautiful skin. If you don't have any bones, you're like an amoeba. An amoeba. You're invertebrate. And if your English is invertebrate, it's useless, inútil, useless. So remember, you need to have vertebrate English, and you need to have strong vertebrae. And my job is to inject bone marrow, médula ósea, constantly in your bones of your English. And if you pay attention and you believe me and you work hard, you will notice the change. Okay, Ruben, how are you?
Oh, I feel good.
You feel good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, is South Dakota a state or a country?
South Dakota is a state.
Is it north of South Dakota? Is it north of North Dakota or south of North Dakota?
It's south of North Dakota.
Okay, now, is North Dakota next to Canada or next to Mexico?
It's next to Canada.
Okay, now, ask me if South Dakota is a big state.
Is South Dakota a big state?
Not necessarily. Ask me if it's bigger than Extremadura.
Is it bigger than Extremadura?
Yes, it is. Ask me if it's bigger than Andalusia.
Is it bigger than Andalusia?
I'm not sure. It's about the same, perhaps, as Andalusia. Ask me if it's a round state.
Is it around the states?
No, state.
State.
No, it's not. Ask me if it's a square state.
Is it a square state?
No, it's not. Ask me what kind of shape it has.
What kind of shape it has?
Does it? Ask me what kind of shape it has. Quiero ver auxiliar aquí.
Okay, what kind of state?
Shape.
What kind of shape does it have?
Good. A perfect rectangle, almost. It's a rectangular state. Ask me if it has a lot of big cities.
It have.
¿Dónde está el verbo auxiliar otra vez?
Does it have a lot of
big
cities?
No, it doesn't. Ask me if it has any big cities.
Does it have any big cities?
No, it doesn't. Ask me if it has a capital.
Does it have a capital?
Yes, it does. Ask me what the capital of South Dakota is.
What's the capital of South Dakota?
The capital of South Dakota is Pierre.
Pierre.
Pedro. Pierre in French. Pierre, South Dakota. Ask me what the population is of Pierre.
And what's the population? The population of Pierre?
I really don't know. I think about 50,000 people. All right. And ask me if there is anything important in South Dakota.
Are there?
Ask me if there is anything. Si hay algo.
Is there anything important in South Dakota?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, there are about 800,000 people, and each person, I imagine, is important. But ask me what the most important attraction is in South Dakota.
What's the most important attraction in South Dakota?
The most important attraction, a tourist attraction in South Dakota, is Mount Rushmore.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen Mount Rushmore?
No, I've never been there.
Have you ever seen a picture of Mount Rushmore?
Yes, I've been.
I've been or I've seen?
I've seen a lot of times a picture of this important monument. Monument.
And what can you explain the monument to me?
Yes, it's like a mountain. A mountain where you can find the faces of 4 important presidents of the United States.
And do you remember the names of the 4 important presidents?
No, I don't know, but I think Lincoln is one of them.
Lincoln. Mira, la L al final es muda. Abraham Lincoln. No. Lincoln. Okay. Lincoln. ¿Cómo se dice el sol?
En
sol.
inglés.
Yeah.
Sun.
Cambia la S a una C.
Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. Y la capital de Nebraska es Lincoln. No, Lincoln. Okay, Lincoln. So one face is Abraham Lincoln, and the other 3?
I don't know, but I can imagine the other one.
Jefferson is another. Washington.
And the other one, possible.
Maybe.
Stories.
You don't know.
No.
Ask me who the other person is.
Who is the other person?
His name is Theodore Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
Ask me when Washington became president.
When was?
Ask me when George Washington became.
When did George Washington become president?
Good. George. Good. He became president in 1787. All right. 2 years before the French Revolution. Okay. So the French Revolution took place during the first presidency. Ask me when Thomas Jefferson became president.
When did Thomas Jefferson become president?
He became president in 1801. Okay. Ask me if Washington was alive when Jefferson became president.
Was George Washington alive when Jefferson became president? Became president?
Was George Washington alive when Thomas Jefferson became president? No, he wasn't. He had died 1 year before. Okay, or a year and a half before. Ask me if Jefferson was the 2nd president of the United States.
Was Jefferson the 2nd president in the United States?
Second. Yeah, Lincoln. Second. Okay, no, he wasn't. Ask me who the 2nd president was.
Who was the second president?
John Adams was the 2nd president. Okay, and ask me when Abraham Lincoln became president.
When was?
No estoy usando verbo to. Ask me when Abraham Lincoln became president.
When did Lincoln become president?
He became president in 1861. Okay. Ask me if he was elected in 1861.
Was he elected?
Elected
in 1861?
1860, like he's like
61?
No, he wasn't. Ask me when he was elected.
When was he elected?
Punto. All right. When was he elected? Repeat.
When was he elected?
He was elected in 1860. Okay. Ask me what month he was elected in.
What month was he elected in?
He was elected in November. Ask me what month he became president.
What month was he? Did he become president?
Okay. He became president formally in April 1861. Now it's different. Now the president becomes officially president on January the 20th of the following year. Okay. So he became president in 1861. Ask me when he was assassinated. Ask me when he was assassinated.
When? When?
Tienes la manía de decir one cuando quiero when.
Yes. When?
When?
Yes, when.
Okay.
When was he assassinated? Assassinated?
Good. He was assassinated in 1865. All right. Ask me if he was re-elected in 1865. Was he?
Was he re-elected in 1865?
No, he wasn't. Ask me when he was re-elected.
When was he re-elected?
Re-elected.
Re-elected.
Okay. Tenemos mucho trabajo,
Yeah.
Ruben? He was re-elected in November 1864. Okay. A short time before he died. And ask me when Theodore Roosevelt became president.
When was Roosevelt?
El verbo to be no lo he dicho. Escucha. Ask me when Theodore Roosevelt became president.
Okay. When did Roosevelt? Roosevelt.
Con V. En medio.
Roosevelt.
Good.
Become president.
Okay. Tenemos trabajo gramatical, de soltura y de oído y de fonética.
Y de todo.
Ay de mí. Oh my God. So much work. When did Roosevelt become president? Roosevelt. Repeat. When did
Roosevelt become president?
He became president in 1900, which is not normal. Because Mr. McKinley was assassinated. Mr. Roosevelt was the vice president. Okay? And ask me if my father was alive when Roosevelt became president.
And was your father alive when Roosevelt was president? Became president?
No, he wasn't. Theodore Roosevelt, no. Franklin Roosevelt, yes. Ask me when Franklin Roosevelt became president.
And when was Franklin
Ask
Roosevelt?
me when, por favor, ¿qué tengo que hacer? Please.
Es que lo traduzco.
Please.
When,
Pero ¿por qué traduces con was?
¿Cuándo fue?
¿Cuándo se hizo?
Ah, sí, claro. Sí,
Se llegó a ser.
Llegó a ser.
Okay,
So
ask me when.
Ser. Ahí la tengo.
Okay. Ask me when Franklin Roosevelt became president.
When did Franklin Roosevelt become president?
He became president in 1933. Okay. Ask me if he was Theodore's son. Was
he Theodore's son?
No, he wasn't. Okay. Ask me what the relationship was between the two.
What was the relation between them?
Está bien relation. También relationship. Los dos valen. Son intercambiables. Franklin was his nephew. Okay. Ask me how old my father was when Franklin became president.
How old was your father when
Franklin Roosevelt
became president?
My father was 9 years old when Franklin became president. Ask me where my father was living at that time.
Where was living your father at that time?
El sujeto va antes.
Where were your father living? Where was your father living at that time?
My father was living in a very small town in Texas called Bertram. Okay. And ask me where my mother was living at that time.
Where was your mother living at that time?
In 1933, when Franklin Roosevelt became president, she was living in San Antonio, Texas. Okay. And asked me if they knew each other, my father and my mother, at that time. Ask me if my parents knew each other at that time.
Knew each other?
I know you,
yes.
You know me.
Okay.
We know each other. Last week I knew you. Ya te conocí la semana pasada. And you knew me. So last week, 7 days ago, we knew each other.
Yeah.
Ya nos conocíamos hace una semana. De hecho, hace un año nos conocíamos. Now,
did they knew?
No. Did they know?
Did they know each other?
At that time.
At that time.
En aquel entonces. En ese momento. No, they didn't. All right. Ask me where they met.
Okay. Where did they met?
They meet.
Meet. Oh, yes. Where were they meet?
Where did they meet?
Where did they meet?
They met in Austin, Texas. Ask me how far it is from San Antonio to Austin.
How far is this?
Is
it from San Antonio to Austin?
It's about 70 miles from San Antonio to Texas. Ask me how far that is in kilometers.
How far is it?
Is that?
How far? Yes. How far is that in kilometers?
In kilometers, it's about 125 kilometers, 130. Okay. And ask me what my parents were doing in Austin when they met.
What was your father doing?
No, estoy hablando de los dos ahora. Ask me what my parents were. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Ask me what my parents were doing in Austin when they met.
What were they doing in Austin when they met?
¿Entiendes Austin?
Yes, Austin.
Okay, good. They were studying at the university. Ask me what university they were attending.
What university were they studying?
Were they attending? Mejor.
Were they attending?
They were attending the University of Texas. Ask me what my father was studying.
What was your father studying?
He was studying medicine. Ask me what my mother was studying.
What was your mother studying?
Studying. She was studying mathematics. Ask me if my father became a doctor later. Ask me if my father later became a doctor.
Oh.
He was studying medicine. Ask me if he became a doctor.
Yeah. Did your father became a doctor?
Repeat, please.
Did your father became a doctor?
Repeat, please. Did
your father become a doctor?
Good. Una vez más. Sin parar cuaje.
Did your father become a doctor?
No, he didn't. He was studying medicine when he met my mother, but he didn't become a doctor. Ask me why.
Why didn't your father become a doctor?
Did lleva el peso del pasado. Why didn't your father become a doctor? Because he didn't continue medicine. Ask me why.
Why didn't your father continue medicine?
Because the Second World War started, and he joined the Air Force. Okay? He joined the Air Force. Ask me how many years he spent in the military.
How many years did he spend in the army?
In the Air Force.
In the Air Force.
He's military, but in the Air Force. He spent 3 years in the Air Force. Ask me if he went to the Pacific.
Did he go to the Pacific?
No, he didn't. Ask me where he spent the military. Service.
Where?
Ask me where he served. Where?
Where did he serve?
He served in Europe, in the European War. All right. Ask me what he did during the war.
And what did he do?
He was a pilot. Ask me if he was a bomber pilot.
And was he a bomber?
Bomber, bombardero.
Ah,
bomber.
Bomber pilot?
No, he wasn't. Ask me if he was a fighter pilot. Caza. Ask me.
Was he a fighter caza?
Pilot.
Pilot?
Fighter pilot.
Ah, fighter pilot.
No, he wasn't. Ask me what kind of pilot he was.
What kind of pilot?
Pilot.
A pilot was he?
Good. Repeat.
What kind of pilot was he?
He was a photo reconnaissance pilot, taking photographs. Okay. Ask me how many missions he flew.
How many missions did he fly?
Fly.
Fly.
Okay, fly. Fly me to the moon. Okay. How many missions did he fly? Repeat, please.
How many missions did he fly?
Missions.
How many missions did he fly?
I think I remember he flew 38 missions. Ask me if they were dangerous. Ask me if they were dangerous.
Were they dangerous?
Yes, they were. Very dangerous. Ask me why.
Why were they dangerous?
Because he flew alone. Okay. Ask me where he took photographs.
Where did he take photographs?
He took photographs over Hamburg, Munich, Wiesbaden, Cologne, Hanover, all of the places, okay? And ask me if he was wounded during the war.
Wounded?
Yes. 3 things can happen in battle. You can stay alive with no problem, you can be killed, or you can be wounded. If you're wounded, you need medical attention.
Yeah.
All right? Wounded.
Wounded.
And sometimes the wound can be very serious. Other times it's not an important wound. A wound. Okay, and so people, you said, when you talk about casualties, que bajas en una batalla, una guerra, there are 2 types, deaths and wounded. The dead and wounded.
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 Good. To wound is herir, pero herida de guerra. No, perdona, miento. Herida de arma. Porque injured es herido de lesión. En un accidente de tráfico, hubo un muerto y 2 heridos. Pues esos heridos se dice injured.
Injured.
Or hurt, not wounded. Wounded is con arma blanca o arma de fuego.
Okay.
Okay? Wounded. Okay, siempre there's always violence between humans. A car accident is violence with machines, okay? But not, okay. Ask me if he was wounded during the war.
Was he wounded during the war?
War.
During the war.
War.
World.
No. La guerra. War.
Ah, war, yes.
Okay. No, he wasn't. He wasn't. No, he wasn't. And ask me what he studied after the war.
What was he?
What did he? Ask me what he studied.
What did he study after the war?
War.
After the war.
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 All right. He changed from medicine to business administration. Ask me why he changed.
And why did he change it?
Change. Well, after the war, my father was a different person. Okay. And he wanted to enter the labor market as quickly as possible and start and get married. This is very typical of many of the people who returned from the war. They said, start life now, okay? Finish your studies. And so he changed from medicine to business administration. We have a lot of English to study again.
Yeah, I know.
So I'll come back to you. Ladies and gentlemen, and I'll come back to you in about 5 minutes. We're going to take a short break. I'll be back, so I expect you back in about 5 minutes' time, okay?